Just quickly before we start this video, I would like to say thank you all so much for 50 subscribers. I really appreciate the support, and I'm going to continue putting out videos, and hopefully we can grow this channel even further. And once again, thank you all so much for 50 subscribers. I really appreciate it. But now, let's get into the video. Hello, Leg over here, and we're back today on F1 2020. And as you can see, we are here at Canada for round 9 of the XRS season. And going into this race, previously we had a very good race at Mexico, scoring 25 points, whilst our championship rival finished P4, scoring only 10 points. So we gained 15 points on the championship lead, and we gained quite a lot in the Constructors' Championship as well. And we should have both of those up on screen for you to see. But yeah, with just 4 races to go in this championship, including this one here at Canada, the championship is going to go down to the wire. And we're here in qualifying right now. You can see our banker was a 108.5. We did get quite a lot of traffic on that lap, so it wasn't a great lap. Our PB is a 7.9, so we're going to try and get close to that. Heading into turn 1 for our final lap, and now through turn 2, we go slightly wide, but we seem to gain that time back on the exit, and into this second chicane then, maximizing the track usage there, even on the exit, through this flat out right and into the chicane. It is a purple first sector. We went a bit wide and compromised our line slightly through that chicane. So far we haven't been able to put the lap together, which is unfortunate. But heading through this chicane now, and it's not bad, but we did lose some time still, so we're still struggling to get this lap together here, and we have to pull it together through these last couple of corners. And you can see we gain a bit of time, but we get some wheel spin on the exit, so it's not been a great lap here. We haven't been able to put it together, and we're going to have to try and gain a lot of time through this final chicane. And you can see that we do exactly that, and we gain 2/10 just at that final chicane, but it's not enough for pole position. Unfortunately, we miss out by just a 10th to AWRL Apollo, who's debuting in this race. But you can see the strategy here. That's the strategy if all goes to plan with the weather, but you might have seen that there's actually a forecast of rain in this race. So that's going to be a big playing factor in this race. AWRL Apollo lining up on pole position. We're in P2. 5 lights are on, and it's lights out, and let's go racing. And Mickey Man alongside us has gotten a very good start. So is Formula 125. But we're going to keep the position to Formula 125. The VSC has been deployed, and we have to reduce our delta here. But you can see we've gotten a 5-second time penalty for contact with Mickey Man, and it was incredibly slight contact. And I guarantee you we wouldn't have gotten that penalty if it wasn't for the VSC. So that is really, really unfortunate for us in this race, because the penalty was just simply unfair. It's just how the game works, which is something that needs to be improved, but unfortunately it happens a lot in this game. But as we return to racing speed now, we defend from Mickey Man and we keep the position, but we do get a warning, which is not ideal. But this 5-second penalty that we have now, we're going to have to serve it in the pit lane, because we got the penalty before making any pit stops here. So that is a 5-second stop-go penalty, which is absolutely terrible for our race, really unfortunate as well. But we've got AWRL Apollo ahead of us. 7/10 is the gap. We're going to have to ignore the penalty for now and just focus on trying to stick with the leader or even overtake him here, because we did gain around a 10th in just that first sector alone. Heading through this chicane now, exiting the chicane, the gap is 6/10 to Apollo, and now into the hairpin. We set a purple second sector, but we do go a bit deep at the hairpin, so we lose quite a lot of time through there. But we're going to use a lot of the battery power down this straight and you can see how much faster we are in a straight line with the slipstream. We're just pulling in the gap slightly, ever so slightly down that straight. And unfortunately, we get another warning and we hit the wall. And as you can see by the MFD, we now have damage. It isn't severe damage or anything, but it is still damage to our front wing. And so now, that's another unfortunate event in this race, just a silly mistake from us. And now, if we can keep up with Apollo ahead of us, then we won't change the front wing, but if we can't, then we will change the front wing in the pit stop. But as you can see, so far, it does seem like we're able to stick with Apollo through that first sector and through this second sector at the moment. In fact, we are gaining time on Apollo, so maybe he's not pushing as hard or using as much battery. In fact, we set a purple second sector, so as it looks at the moment, we will not be changing the front wing. And heading down this very, very long straight, we're going to use the battery power. We have the DRS, we have the slipstream. This is the closest we've been to Apollo, but I don't think we'll be close enough for a move into the final chicane. No, we're not. We head through the final chicane now. We will have DRS. This time we don't hit the wall, and the gap is just half a second to Apollo ahead. We set the fastest lap, in fact, so we definitely have the pace advantage at this early stage of the race here. Exiting turn 2 now, and trying to get as close as possible on this lap. But the VSC has been deployed once again here, and now on lap 4 of this race, I still think that it will be way too early for anyone to even think about making a pit stop here, as we're heading down the straight under VSC conditions. It's only lap 4 of this race, so there's really no point in pitting, as the VSC is ending now, so a pretty short VSC as we're heading out of the chicane, and the DRS has been enabled. Green flags wave now, and we have returned to racing speed as we go into the hairpin. And this time, we do get quite a good VSC restart, and we are able to close the gap quite a lot to Apollo. And this time, we are much closer to Apollo, but we're not using any of the battery. It doesn't seem like we're going to look for a move into the chicane. We don't go for a move, and Apollo takes the racing line, but we still have the DRS. We're using a slight amount of our battery, but we're using Apollo so that we are able to save battery, to save fuel, and so that he can kind of drag us along and pull us away using the DRS so that we can pull a gap from the cars behind. Heading through this first sector then, slight tap of the wall. You can see we check for damage, but luckily no more damage than what we already had, as we're heading through and out of that chicane and activating the DRS. Apollo gets all out of shape on that exit, but he doesn't lose too much time, and into this chicane right after the DRS straight. The gap is 6/10 actually, so Apollo seems like he's pushing a bit harder now. The gap nearly went to 7/10 just before we entered the hairpin. Now exiting the hairpin, and we are very close to Apollo. We're using lots of our ERS, and it looks like we are going to be close enough for a move. We draw alongside Apollo, and it looks like we'll be ahead into the chicane, but he keeps his nose in, and we're forced to slightly cut the corner. There was a slight amount of contact, but overall we did keep it clean, and we are now ahead of Apollo in this race, and we are currently leading the race. But remember, crucially, that we do still have that 5-second stop-go penalty, so although we are currently leading this race, we will not be after we make our pit stop. But we're heading through the first chicane now, and now our focus is to try and pull a gap to Apollo behind us, and crucially pull out of the DRS zone. And you can see we're just confirming not to change the front wing. But the VSC has been deployed once again. 3 VSCs in 6 laps, and now our teammates in the pit lane. I assume now actually quite a few people will go into the pit lane, as this is still quite early in the race, but you can see Apollo's gone into the pits, Mickey Man's gone into the pits, F1XS Chris D has gone into the pit lane. Lots of people in the pit lane here, but Formula 125 has elected to stay out along with us here. And if I knew the VSC was going to last this long, then I would have made my pit stop as well. But unfortunate, because you can never really predict these things. But as the VSC is ending, we have green flags now, and the guys behind have gained so much time because they were able to make that pit stop under VSC. I just didn't want to take the risk and possibly get held in the pit lane or lose a position, and unfortunately, as we just get a 3-second time penalty, we may have lost out on an opportunity to make a free pit stop. But on lap 9 of this race, that's all that happened in this first stint. We got that 3-second penalty for track limits, unfortunately. Going into the pit lane to make our first stop in this race, we're going to switch onto the mediums. No front wing change. And as we wait for this very long stop-go penalty, finally we're able to get our car serviced here, and we exit the pits, and it's a 7.7 pit stop because of that penalty. So really unfortunate as we now exit the pit lane, and up ahead we have Flacky. He's got 11 seconds of penalties, and he gets all out of shape out of turn 2. So we're going to try and make a move around the outside at this second chicane, but you're about to see here that, well, he just completely wipes us out and acts like we didn't even exist alongside him there. Now we have no front wing whatsoever, as right after we make our pit stop as well, which is incredibly unfortunate. And as you can see, Jeff is asking us to box. We are definitely going to box. We need a new front wing, and we're going to have to get new tires here. And crucially, we do have a safety car here, so we will be able to pit and not lose too much time, but we still have lost so much time because we were literally sent into a wall as soon as we exited the pit lane, which is really unfortunate for us. But hopefully a lot of the cars behind us make a pit stop as well, and we don't lose too many positions as we're entering the pit lane now, and we're going to have to replace the front wing. We already had a long enough pit stop on the previous lap, but we're going to have to wait once again as our pit crew are ready. They're ready with, this time, hard compound tires. So as they replace the front wing, we now have hard tires, and in the moment we actually planned to go to the end on these hard tires, but we completely forgot about what the forecast said at the beginning of the race, and that rain was expected here. So I think the right call was to go for mediums, which is unfortunate, but just another mistake that I didn't realize at the time. But as we're heading onto this safety car restart, you can see it's very overcast now as we wait for the leaders to restart this race, and they go now. So heading into the final chicane, and now out of it, HSR Grunty ahead of us is ghosted. I think he's disconnected, so that's going to be a free position for us, so we don't lose any time behind him. And up ahead, we have the top 5, and they're all on the mediums. I think they're all on the mediums as we're heading through this second chicane. Now, through this flat out right into this chicane here. And we're just getting closer and closer, but you can see, or you might not have seen, but rain has now started to drop on the track, and you can see it now much more clearly. There is rain pouring on the track. It's currently just a light shower, but it's probably going to become much more than that. As we have a look down the inside of Robert, we're unable to get the move done, and exiting the hairpin now. The rain is falling down on the track, and this is surely going to change the strategy, and this is why I should have taken the mediums or even the softs here, but I totally forgot about the rain during the race and we went onto the hards, which is a mistake from us, but I've learned from it and I don't think it'll happen again. Heading to start lap 15, heading through the first set of corners, now out of the first set of corners and into the second chicane. The gap to Robrot ahead is just half a second, and ahead of him is a whole train of cars here. So as long as we stick with the pack ahead, we will probably have a shot at winning, although we have been set back multiple times in this race. But Robrot has gotten a pretty bad exit out of that chicane, and into this one we're going to look for a move down the inside, but Robrot turns in and we have to save ourselves from a spin. And now we have Flacky behind us. This is the same guy who sent us into a wall, so we're going to try and keep the position. We really don't want to lose the position to him, and luckily we do keep the position there. And yeah, unfortunately we got turned in on and we weren't able to make the move. Luckily we held it and kept it from spinning, but still unfortunate here, as we're all just losing time to the cars ahead with all this unnecessary fighting, which is always frustrating in the moment, but everyone has the right to defend their position. But the DRS has now been enabled, but our teammate is in the pit lane now. Robrot's getting all out of shape, we're getting all out of shape on the exit of turn 2. Through this second chicane, you can just see that the grip is a lot less than what we had when it was fully dry. Flacky has a look down the inside. He isn't able to make the move stick, luckily. And now heading out of this chicane, we'll have the DRS, as surprisingly it hasn't been disabled yet. But heading through this chicane now, this time we're not close enough to try for a move on Robrot, but Robrot's gotten a terrible exit. He pushes us onto the grass, but we're gonna try and go down the inside at the hairpin. He makes a big dive bomb. We make contact, and when we decide to concede the position because of that contact, and Robrot keeps the position for another lap here. And now the VSC has been deployed, and this is going to be crucial. Once again, the VSC has been deployed. You can see we have the inters ready on the MFD, but we decide to stay out, and this might have been a big mistake here, because we asked for the weather report, and Jeff is about to say that we're not sure whether or not the dries are faster at the moment. And as the VSC is ending now, the conditions are just worsening more and more here. And you can see there's absolutely no grip now. And as we head onto the end of that same lap, we are pitting now for the intermediate tires. So the guys who pitted under VSC are going to gain so much time here. And we're about to head into our pit box now. You can see the green wall, the green striped intermediate tires are now on the car in these wet conditions, and it's going to stay wet for the majority of this second half of the race. As we're exiting the pit lane now, and you can see Robrot, he hasn't gained too much time, but he's gained around a second by pitting that one lap earlier. And behind us, we still have people on the dry tires, surprisingly. So those guys are going to lose so much time here. And ahead of us, we have a big fight for position, and I'm assuming one of those cars is on dry tires here, because one of them is going very slowly, and it's Apollo. Apollo is on the hard compound of tires still, so I'm not sure if he just didn't make his pit stop, or if he made a mistake with the pit stop and accidentally went onto hards instead of inters. But we get the move, or we're going to try and get the move done on him. We leave plenty of room, as he has almost no grip on those hards, so we're leaving plenty of room so that he can make the corner, and we do get the move done. And now up ahead of us, we have Robrot, and then Formula 125, 1.5 seconds ahead of Robrot. So we're going to try and get the move done on Robrot as soon as we can here. And the gap is just underneath a second. Obviously, we won't get DRS in the wet conditions. So heading through the first corner to start lap 19 of this race. And it seems like Robrot is definitely struggling in these wet conditions, and it seems like we are faster. And I can confirm that at this stage of the race, Robrot ahead of us actually had damage. Yes, that's where he got the damage. You can see that a piece of bodywork flew off of his car because he hit the wall, and he now has damage in this race. But as we do, you might think that, oh, he is damaged, so it should be easy to pass him. Well, you're about to see that it was anything but easy to get past Robrot. He defended incredibly hard here, and this is just the start of our 6-lap long battle here. And we're going to try and go around the outside of him through the hairpin, and we both leave each other enough space, but on the exits, it looks like we actually get the better exit, but he is going to have the slipstream here. We're going to try and defend to the inside. We go to the middle of the track, but Robrot finds the gap on the inside, and he absolutely sends it into the chicane. He doesn't make the corner, but there's nothing we can do because we had to avoid him. So he does keep the position on that occasion. And into turn 1, we're very close. We have a look down the inside, but we're unable to make the move happen. And through turn 2 now, we're practically pushing him through the corner, and we get a bit of oversteer. So does Robrot. So we're just trying our hardest to get this move done as soon as possible, because at this stage of the race, the longer that we battle, the more time that both of us lose to the car ahead, which is Formula 125. And obviously that is not good for us, because Formula 125 is our championship rival in this race. So all this battling, it's kind of unnecessary since we're both losing time, and Robrot has damage, so we are clearly the fastest car at the moment, but he has the right to defend his position, and he's doing exactly that. So we're going to have to try and make the move, but he absolutely sends it through the hairpin and leaves us no possible way to stay alongside him and make the corner. So we have to give up the move and stick behind once again in this race. So heading down this straight to finish off lap 20 through the chicane now. The gap to Formula 125 is 5.7 seconds, and we're just losing even more time lap after lap here, stuck behind the Ferrari ahead of us. Heading through turn 1 to start lap 21 of this race. We're trying to get as close as possible. Once again, we get a bit of oversteer, which is not ideal, but we are still plenty close enough to Robrot ahead. He gets all out of shape through the chicane, but there's nothing we can do because there's simply not enough grip for us to change lines and draw alongside him in the wet conditions. You can see we're literally pushing him through pretty much every corner, which just shows how much the damage is holding him back here and how much faster we are because of it. So at this stage of the race, it was frustrating being behind, but we tried our absolute best to get past Robrot ahead of us. Heading into the hairpin, Robrot goes defensive, but we're not going for a move here because we're going to try and get a good exit onto the straight. We have the outside line, and on the exit we do indeed get a very, very nice exit here. And heading down the straight, we're going to use a lot of the battery, but Robrot is possibly using lower downforce because he's very quick in a straight line, heading through the chicane, and we're slightly forced off the track, and we have to concede the position once again. So this is a very, very tough battle, very, very hard racing here as we're starting lap 22 now. We're still stuck behind Robrot ahead of us, and the gap is 8.6 seconds, but cutting onto lap 24 now, and this is where we finally are able to have a chance at ending this 6-lap long battle here. And heading into the hairpin, Robrot goes deep, so we try and get the switchback, and we get the switchback, and we do indeed get the better exit on Robrot here. And heading down this straight now, we're using all of the slipstream, all of the overtake, and heading into the final chicane. We're going to try and go around the outside here, and we just about get the better exit, and we get the move done, and that is the battle done and dusted there. A 6-lap long battle, nearly 7 laps long, and we finally get it done. But as we cut on to the end of, or towards the end of lap 27, you can see we pulled quite a gap to Robrot, and you can see that the conditions have changed quite a lot. DRS has now been enabled, and you can see that we are going to pit for the dry compound tires because it is now dry enough for us to go onto the soft to finish off this race. You can see Formula 125 in the pit lane. He has just made his pit stop. We are just going to make our pit stop. And now we are going to try our absolute hardest to close the gap as much as possible to Formula 125 ahead of us. But because of that 6-lap battle with Rob Rott, it's going to be very difficult here, because look at the gap. It was 10 seconds after that battle ended with Rob Rott, but now we managed to pull around 4 seconds after finishing off that battle. And as we're cutting on lap after lap, you can just see the gap is going down so much lap after lap, and you can see 2.9 seconds, 2.8 seconds is the gap. Cutting on to lap 33, we set the fastest lap, and the gap is now just 2 seconds. And on to the final lap of this race, the gap is 0.2 of a second to Formula 125 ahead of us. Apollo sets the fastest lap here, and we are just trying to get the move done on Formula 125. It's going to go down to the wire here. We're probably not going to be able to get the fastest lap anymore, so Apollo is probably going to keep that, and we'll miss out on 2 extra points, but we will still try and get those 20 points for winning the race. You can see the ERS light from Formula 125 is flashing, so that means he is under 10% battery, and we still have around 20%, so we have plenty of battery to use compared to him. And we're going to try and go around the outside at the hairpin, but Formula 125 is able to keep the position. Heading down this straight now, it's now or never. We have to make the move happen here, and we draw alongside Formula 125, and we are now ahead, going into the final chicane now, and it looks like we are going to win this race. Exiting the final chicane now, and we have done it. We have won this race after a series of very, very unfortunate events. We claim first place and we claim victory. It went down to the wire on that final lap. Great racing with Formula 125, and we extend our championship lead by another 6 points actually, because we did end up winning the driver of the day vote, which is good, which is very good for us as well. So that's an extra point in our championship. So we gain 6 points on the championship lead, which now means we are in P2 in the Drivers' Championship, as you can see the race results here on screen. So a very, very good race, insane comeback in that race. But that's going to be it for today's video. If you did enjoy it, make sure to leave a like and subscribe, as I post F1 content Sundays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays. This Thursday we have a Japan track guide, so make sure to stay tuned. But thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.